It's a Tuesday, which means it's an update day for Arc Raiders. However, one of the big things since the launch of Riven Tides and the subsequent announcement of updates moving forward, these weekly updates have turned hit or quite a big miss, either offering a few things here and there, as we saw with the update for Ermal and the new trader, or just a simple store update with minimal in between. Strangely, not even with minor or major bug fixes as of the last few weeks. Today, though, was no different. A weekly update, but one that may not have accomplished as much as you'd hope to see, especially if you're in specific lobbies in the game. Today, we're running down what changed, what didn't, and what the future looks like here for the upcoming updates and what to expect. Drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Arc Raiders and other FPS coverage. I'd love to have in the community. And finally, check out my friends over at Advanced GG, where code Espresso can get you 10% off your entire order, but more on that later. For now, let's get into it. So as for the update and what changed in Arc Raiders today, we ended up seeing that Ermal is the centerpiece of this update with new weekly offerings. You have the I-band face style for 300k and high tier arc parts, the right there emote for 100k and high tier arc parts, the gardening shears backpack attachment for 100k and high tier arc parts, the complex gun parts blueprint for 250k and high tier arc parts, an ion sputter for 3 varying ducks, the snap hook for 100k and high tier arc parts, the Hall Cracker 3 for 100k and high tier arc parts, and 25 Raider tokens for 150k in high tier arc parts. Now, this is a relatively middle of the pack offering, I'd say, compared to the last few weeks here. Last week's was actually pretty solid, I thought, with a kinetic converter being a pretty nice addition to have. Same with the Vidashot blueprint. The Tempest 3 for 50k and low tier arc parts was nice price wise, but kind of an annoying haul in quantity since those low tier arc parts cost so much less in trade value compared to higher tier arc parts. But this week's the snap hook might be the only thing you find relatively worth in value if you don't have the blueprint or if you don't know the hot zone locations to find them just as drops in the world. The Hall Cracker 3, not really worth it in my opinion, given you can buy one from Tianwen for 30k and upgrade it to 3 or even 4 relatively easily. But that was the update for Ermal and the trader and what we have for this weekly offering. Beyond that, it was mentioned that we have 2 new color variants of the macrame set, again adding to the existing offerings in the game's cosmetics, where if you do not own them, you'll just have more offerings for the price point, but if you do own the set already, it's just granted to you automatically. It's just a free expansion for those items you already have. They also mentioned there's a new bangs hairstyle as well that was added in the shop, but that's all there was this week's update. The patch notes, I genuinely, without exaggeration, it might be the shortest we've seen in patch notes to date for the game, through 30 plus patches since launch and the notes associated. I don't think that I remember ever seeing just a 2-liner in terms of those patch notes and what was said. So for this, business as usual, I guess you could say, in the sense of, like, if you feel like you missed out on what an update may have brought along, you didn't really, but also it's probably not what a lot of players were hoping for. And I say this because one big thing was not changed out of this update, that being a duplication glitch. Now, this may be something that does not affect you or I, like playing in PvE lobbies predominantly the last couple of months here. It's not one of those things that I would come in contact with this, but if you are playing in these sort of PvP style lobbies and more aggressive lobbies with that, you'll see this a lot, but it also has greater implications for not only people's play experiences, but the general loot economy as a whole. So for those that don't know, the last week, 2 weeks or so, higher tier PvP heavy lobbies have been filled with massively duplicated gear, where you could have scenarios where every other gunfight was somebody pushing you with a fully kitted Bobcat with a kinetic converter, all that kind of stuff, pushing like they didn't care if they lost it, because in a lot of cases, they didn't have to care. They would have another one back in their stash in Speranza. This was all over Reddit, all over Facebook. There was even a huge marketplace for people selling these duplicated items to players who wanted a get-rich-quick scheme, or perhaps, I guess, the people selling it were getting rich, both, but for like different ends, one in-game, one in real life. But this personally hasn't affected me, again, because of the PvE lobbies and probably some of you as well. It's not necessarily just me complaining to complain or anything like that, but it has been a pervasive problem affecting every single raid of some players' experiences. And here's the thing, if you get in any of these lobbies, you'll know dang well that no one's bringing in a kinetic converter on every possible weapon they can. They're that rare. Each map seems to only spawn per game about 1 to 2 out of all the containers in the entire world. The guy who pushed you isn't going to be going in and farming out PvE lobbies for those hot zones and spawns for hours to end up getting to 10 to 15 kinetic converters. But even taking out the consideration of PvP lobbies, it still completely annihilates the value of those attachments and their general loot economy by not fixing this duplication glitch. Like I said, there's about 1 to 2 higher tier attachments, kinetic converters, silencer 3s, horizontal grips that will usually spawn per game, each map having these hot zones where you can find them. But if you get into a lobby of duped players with a handful handful of these weapons attachments on each map, that loot pool gets exponentially muddied, devaluing those attachments and making them less and less rare. And without a true proper degradation of attachments and items like that, like some other games may have, where it doesn't matter if you can repair them or not, they're still going to degrade. That's one of those things that until the next wipe here, you're not really going to see that kind of reset and brought down to a normal level. Personally, I don't know how to advise to fix this. I try to not pay attention to these glitches and things like that because I don't want to inadvertently platform them in any capacity. And I can't do that if I don't know how to do them. But like, this is definitely something that, having been going on for 2 weeks now at this point, as probably the biggest issue that players are talking about, it's definitely something that I'm very surprised was not changed. So, okay, what's next? Will we see this fixed as of the next update next week? Hopefully sooner, to be honest with you. But outside of that, when is our next meaningful update? Because today's surely wasn't it. In a recent patch notes, it was mentioned we plan to deliver live updates every 3 weeks. These will vary in size and scope, but we'll use each one as an opportunity to address your feedback. In between these live events, we are still updating and hotfixing when needed, with store and trials rotations every week. We believe this process will give us the time and focus we need to make changes that are important to the community. Now here's the thing. That was 2 weeks ago, but for many, myself included, that mention was kind of on an assumed nature it would be pertaining to the week prior, when Ermal and the Nomadic Traders were introduced to the game, because that was a significant update to the game, right? Like, that actually changed how we end up interacting with this sort of, air quote, end game to some degree, offering something more to grind out on a rotation every single week. But here we are, 3 weeks beyond that point, without any meaningful update to the game this week, but 2 weeks after that announcement. So it is quite possible that next week could be that targeted live update that we've seen already communicated, perhaps getting a new weapon or a utility item in Blueprint, maybe a long-awaited Raider deck, our first in nearly 4 months, perhaps a new set of quests. It's not going to be anything that's a major or massive dump of content like we saw from the January to April updates here, but something to tide players over is possible. However, it's just strange we didn't see it today, in my opinion. Right now, listen, I still love this game. This video has kind of sounded like a bummer, and as an optimistic person, I do apologize for that. But right now, it feels like we're kind of in the heart of this content lull for Arc Raiders, that I'm personally now expecting something next week. Again, how big, who knows? But at the same time, I also don't want to tell myself that just in case it doesn't happen. It seems like a lot of what our expectations have kind of been put on ice, for better or for worse, but also seems like that rotating shop of Ermal is just kind of keeping the lights on for the game at the moment. So here's the hoping that next week brings along with it a new few additions to excite players, and of course, a new update to fix the game's economy and duplication issues. Honestly, fingers crossed that comes earlier than next week, so that it's not something that affects as many players for as consistent as it has. Again, 2 weeks already, adding another week on top of that, I can understand why people are frustrated and upset. So fingers crossed that's something that's added as of at least at the latest next week, but we'll have to wait and see. For now, that's what we're going to call it. But before we wrap everything up, a quick heads up. We have partnered with my friends over at Advanced GG. Again, as we've mentioned, a bit under the radar the last few months, but now going into the summer, ramping that up more and more. Advanced is the healthier energy supplement option where I use it daily as my comparable cup of coffee. Currently drinking that raspberry lemonade. Magic Rainbow Sherbet's also another one that's one of my favorites, but I'd highly recommend, and we actually co-branded that along with a few other items on their site, like a 26-ounce ice shaker. But love this stuff. If you're looking for a replacement for your own cup of coffee, give it a try. If you decide to give it a go, code Espresso and get 10% off your entire order. But no sweat, appreciate you hearing me out on this, and of course, just checking in on the videos here that you made it this far. But anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this small update, if we want to even call it that? What do you think of the lack of no update to the duplication glitch? Are you hoping to see something next week? Let me know your thoughts down below. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single fingering all things Arc Raiders and even more FPS content as we gear up for the summer here, and a lot of stuff upcoming that I'm excited to share with you guys. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.